Phoenix 200 on a 4.7 liter Dodge Dakota Pickup.
Okay, first thing we're going to do is verify which heater hose has flow into the heater core, which on this particular engine is this hose right here. We've got the other hoses clamped to reduce coolant loss. You'll still lose some, so we're going to stick a rag down here to keep out the floor off the engine. We're going to use a standard Phoenix 200. In this case, I've actually had a section of heater hose on it, made it a little easier going together. First thing we're going to do is measure where we're going to figure out where we're going to put it. It's going to be right in this section here. So we're going to see what we need to cut the back side of the heater hose. We'll take the factory clamps off. Take a hose cutter or a handy pocket knife and cut the hose back here where connections can be made. Now, these heater hose will say for a later date. See, we've got it cut back here. Slide our number 12 hose clamp on there. Slide the water into the Phoenix. Fuel hose into the coolant hose. And the other end we'll attach the hose clamp on that one. Set and tighten the hose clamps. Make sure we have plenty of clearance in there and we're not causing anything to kink. Okay, that part's done. On most of these vehicles, nowadays they have a lock on the fuel rail. It just pops up and slides back. See, that snaps on the line, that actually goes up in the fitting.
Okay.
So we're going to disconnect that. On this particular version of truck, this uses a 5/16 fuel line. We'll take a 5/16 quick disconnect tool, slide it up in the release. You're supposed to be nice and easy. Some things that come off real easy, sometimes you gotta work.
Now, have you already depressurized it?
Yes.
Gotta get over here. is that a specialty disconnect tool that does not come with the kit?
No, these do not come with the kit. You can get them at any parts house, AutoZone. Anybody who does this for a living has them in the toolbox. That disconnects fuel hose from the fuel rail. With this, the way this one's designed, the fuel fittings on the Phoenix are 3/8 fuel fittings. So you can't, if it was a 3/8 going into fuel rail, you could actually take that and just attach it straight to the Phoenix. With this particular one, it uses a 5/16 fuel hose, fuel connect.
Okay.
So we're going to have to use a 5/16 connect to a 5/16 fuel line. Put this snap in place just like that. Once we get the line built. So on the other end, we'll get the 3/8 snapped on like that. So let me build a line here to make this work.
Okay.
Be right back with it.
You got it. Go back.
What we're doing is we're going to adjust. I'm going to take the heater hose clamp off here so I can give myself a little bit more working area. We're going to reroute this hose. With the way Chrysler made this hard bend, you can't just turn the hose towards the Phoenix. So what we're going to do is route that hose up a little higher to get it to allow us to come straight down to the unit.
Okay.
Just a little rerouting, nothing gets in the way. Just makes it so we don't end up kinking a hose, anything like that. You know, if you want to, you can actually run it back behind and over. Whatever makes it easier for you. This is a flex, so as the engine shakes, nothing gets broke, and it'll have a flex in between these also.
And we were just talking about the Magnus and Mossack's protects you.
Correct. Magnus and Mossack, everybody worries about warranty issues, so on and so forth. The Magnus and Mossack, I think, was brought in 1976, and it states that allows aftermarket parts to be installed on factory vehicles without worrying about the warranty concerns. For a aftermarket part to void a warranty, the manufacturer has to be able to prove without any reason of doubt that the damage was caused by the aftermarket part to be able to void any type of warranty.
Okay. So in short, you can install a Phoenix fuel converter on your car and not have to worry about the warranty.
Exactly.
And you can find out more information about the Magnus and Mossack on fuelconverter.com.
Correct. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to find a straight connector. So we're going to take and install a straight metal connector there, and then we'll install a straight connector here, and we will run these two just like that together.
Okay.
Give me a minute and I'll make a fuel line.
Fuel line?
While we're at it, I'll show you how these fuel lines go together. You actually slide the fuel line clamp on the fuel line. You can see the notch right here on the end of this on the end of the fuel line. If these fuel lines are hard, you can't get them to start, dip them in hot water. Don't heat them with a lighter or anything like that. That's very dangerous, ruins the hoses. But all you have to do is, it takes a little effort and a little push. They'll slide right inside. Twist them a little bit as you're pushing them in. Takes a little bit of hand strength, guys. So then you can actually see the notch when it's pushed up. You want to push the clamp up above that notch, and then we'll actually take a pair of the pliers that come with the kit and squeeze it, that right there, until it pinches tight on the plastic hose.
Okay.
Nice tugs, nice, tight, snug, perfect fuel connection.
Beautiful.
This is actually the fuel line that's going from the fuel rail back to the Phoenix unit. So we're going to put a 90-degree 3/8 on this end.
And it doesn't matter which end of the fuel line goes where?
No, if you actually cut one of these units in half, which I don't recommend because they're pretty expensive to cut in half, but they're mirror imaged from the center out. So either side, the fuel can come in or out either side, coolant can come in or out either side.
So
makes it a lot easier. There's no actual import and outport. The other thing is, before you crimp this one so that you can get your, these hoses will actually all come out straight or bent. They're pretty versatile, but they're rolled from the factory. So if you can use that little bit of factory bend to help get your flow of how that hose goes, sometimes it makes it a little easier. You don't want to turn them once they've been crimped.
So make sure that the positioning is correct of the connector.
Position them. Make sure all that looks nice and neat before I crimp them tight.
Okay.
And we pushed it on just like the other one, crimped it just like the other one. Now we will actually reach in here and it's just a snap fit. So as you're pushing it on the fuel line, you'll hear it snap.
Click.
And as we are pushing it on to the Phoenix unit, same snap. This other one is going to become a little trickier just because of Dodge being so friendly towards our 90-degree here. I'm going to actually route this around the purge valve here. So that we can have a little more room. Actually, we can look at this too. This would basically be your fuel rail, how it's attached. That tool goes around it just like that. Slides up inside and releases a set of clips.
Okay,
and
so
these
definitely behoove you to go to your local auto parts store and get one.
You cannot get them apart without the factory, without the special tools.
Okay.
We're actually going to wrap that through that way so we can get it up here and just get a little more room for our line so we don't take a chance of kinking anything. And when we're done, we'll actually tie strap all this up to make sure that we don't end up flexing, kinking, breaking, anything like that. These style tube connectors work just the same as the plastics. They're sometimes a little harder to get started. Just shove them up into place and crimp them down. Just like that. And then we're going to figure where we want that hose mounted. And mark out how much line we want. Just going to be a really short hose. In your kit, there's 8 foot of hose. In most cases, you'll use 3 or 4 foot of it. On some GMs or something where the heater hoses are on the other side, you'll use more hose. But on the Chryslers, especially on this particular truck where there's no room anyway, the heater hoses are on the driver's side. Fuel lines come up on the driver's side, so it makes it a really easy, just little confined on room. I have done literally thousands of these, so you know, as you see, I can put them together without kinking the hose. If by chance you kink that hose, cut it off and start over again. That, if you kink it, I'll show you on a piece of, if you actually kink that hose like that, it causes weak spots where those kinks occurred. These hoses will hold up to about 200 pounds of pressure, but once you kink them, it's a weak spot. So when we're dealing with fuel, we don't want to take a chance of a leak. If you kink it, cut it off, start over. In the kits, I normally install 2 or 3, 4 extra clamps for that reason. So don't risk it. If you crimp it, cut it off, start over.
And that is the fuel converter safety tip of the day.
When you're cutting the fuel hose in your kit, you're supplied with a cutter. These cutters are the best and really the only thing to use for cutting this fuel hose. And it just kind of goes in right like that. It's a razor blade in there, very sharp, so be careful with it. And just clip right through the hose. It leaves a nice clean cut. Us guys in the mechanical field think that, you know, use our dikes to cut everything. It's not really a good idea on this fuel line. We actually, after taking a couple minutes to reconsider how we were doing things, we decided instead of running straight down like we were, that we would be better off to add some flex on this, so as everything shakes and moves, we don't have to worry about breaking anything. So we're going to use a 90 down and then loop the hose, and you'll see.
Right connector.
Huh?
That's the right connector.
It's the right connector.
So we're going to add a longer loop, so it has some more flexibility.
We've got more flexibility. In most cases, you know, in case a motor mount would break or something, you know, in the automotive world, we always have to look for things that are unexpected. So with that hose being really short, if somebody would break a motor mount, something like that, we don't want the hose flipping up, and we don't want to take a chance of breaking a hose, so we're going to actually loop it like that, so we've got plenty of flex as the engine, everything moves. So let me get this one crimped around the corners. Okay, so on the Phoenix unit, we're going to snap on the green one, up on this factory fuel line, snap that one into place. Now, as everything moves around, we have plenty of room. We'll attach that up high. You know, these fuel lines are actually made as repair kits for OEM lines and to remake fuel lines we use in racing. So, and that's the same line that comes in your kits. So you don't really have to worry about they don't chafe easy, anything like that. Anywhere where it's touching, I try to add, you know, a shield of some sort, like this hose right here. Will, no matter what I do, will try to touch when they're driving. So I will actually add a piece of protection right here, so that if it doesn't end up chafing the heater hose or the fuel hose. This hose is actually good enough, it'll wear through the heater hose long before it wears through this, but we don't want a problem at either end. So, in being a mechanic, we always try to make things look factory as possible. So, but before we do that, we're going to install the ground wire. I pre-made this before you guys got to see us. So.
Now, the whole point of the catalyst is to create static electricity, and
the catalyst doesn't actually do it. The water flowing through the center creates a static electrical charge. The static electrical charge, along with the heat and everything else with the catalyst, allows the catalyst to work at a temperature as low as 200 degrees. In most cases, catalysts need 300 plus degrees to operate. We cannot allow our fuel to get that hot. So we create a static electrical charge with the coolant flowing through and some other unique things that happen inside this unit that allow that to happen. It's a little harder to install these nuts when the camera's on you, because it never fails you to drop them down. So we want to secure that on the unit.
So to create static electricity from getting to your fuel system and blowing yourself up, you need to make sure that it's securely grounded.
Actually, in reality, the biggest reason for the ground wire is because with creating static electricity, we do not want to leave the static electricity in the coolant and cause electrolysis of the coolant. So we actually want to give any current, any electricity from electrolysis that naturally occurs in the coolant to any electrolysis we're producing in the system. We want all of it to be able to dissipate the ground. So there's no chance of, you know, electrolysis damaging anything in the cooling system. And we're just going to take this to any battery ground, body ground, just a ground, gentlemen. If you guys remember taking this little part here off, which is the factory lock, I always like to try to put it back on the factory connector. I trust our connectors more than I do the OEMs, so we don't want that one coming unlocked. At this point, we can actually start it. I'm going to go ahead and wire tie everything, support everything, make sure we don't have everything's in place, and then we'll start it up and go from there. Right here, where this line comes under, it's got a little bit of clearance, but there's not, when this thing's running, shaking, vibrating, going down the road, they're gonna touch. And to prevent any type of chafing, anything like that, all I did is took that piece of the extra fuel line, split it down the middle, and then I will actually just slide it over that hose. And it makes a better shield than just about anything you can buy in the store. And then I'll take a zip tie and actually zip them together like this to hold them more secure so they don't vibrate against one another. And that will outlast the body on this truck. So whenever he takes the engine out, put it in the next truck, then we're gonna just flip them and make it all nice and neat. You can see I tied this line here. Just keep everything nice and tight so nothing actually can vibrate against anything, hit anything. In most cases, on whatever vehicles you install the Phoenix units on, the units are not that heavy. They can pretty much just be supported in the heater hose. Can they be attached to a bracket? Yes. Sometimes if we're concerned about it, we'll zip tie them for a little, to help hold a little weight. I make custom brackets. We're going to start having some of them on the website here shortly. But as you can see, this one has no tie straps, no nothing. It's pretty secure.
So I don't have to worry about driving the long distances, and that's not going to go.
No, you don't have anything that you really need to worry about at that point. It's not doing anything that, everything has to move under the hood. So, but as of now, we're ready for contact. Make sure
you're going to be offering custom brackets on Fuel Converter's website.
Yeah, they will be coming. They're still probably 6 months out. Okay. We're trying to devise. It's hard to make a one-size-fit-all. And I've got a couple different design ideas that I've made in the past that we're going to bring out. And of course, we'll probably do them out of like polished aluminum so that they're bendable, adjustable. You can trim them to fit whatever bracket, bolt fitting you want. But keep an eye out on the website. We'll put a news flash up there when they're ready. So.
You got it. Keep an eye on fuelconverter.com. And you can always follow us on Twitter and facebook.com/fuelconverter.
Normally, once I install these, with everything having electric fuel pumps, I just turn the key on, let the fuel pump cycle. Then I'll do that once or twice. But, some vehicles you do have to pump the starter to get the fuel pump to cycle. So before we start it, we'll pressurize it and make sure there are no leaks. If you get a little coolant leak, it's not plenty. We just don't let gas go out anyway. Just always double, triple check your work. After that, you can adjust this like it is. Within the time, in most cases, within the time that you can actually have heat developing. By the time you start feeling heat in this engine, that Phoenix will start working. It normally takes a couple of weeks for them to get for the ECU to learn what we're doing. But you'll notice a difference in the way throttle response and power. By the time the gentleman that owns it's going to back it out here in a minute, take it for a test drive, and then we'll see what he thinks when he gets back. We're going to check the coolant, top it off, and send him down the road.
Alright, I'm sold. They got me. I'm a computer geek, but I'm also a car lover. As soon as you pull it out, I've never gotten the tires to spin on it, and I couldn't get them to stop spinning. You get a lot of fuel mileage out of it, but keep your foot out of the floor. It was awesome. Very well worth it, worth the money. You see an instant result, and driving on the highway for a little bit, there was a huge difference just in idling, on-ramp, off-ramp, pickup, and also, not really sure how accurate this is, but I think it dropped 1 to 200 RPM. I'm not sure how that's possible, but lowering the RPM is obviously going to increase some of my fuel mileage. So, I'm a believer. You got me.